proud members of the Fan First Sports Network. What do these numbers as far as returning production mean? If you're coming off of a 1-11 season and you're returning
Jack shit.
and you're returning 98% of your production, what does that mean?
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like, so take your national champion, for example.
45, 40, 35, 40, he's gonna go! It's time people feel it!
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better! We get better and better! Team is If we die, we die!
Man is putting a child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Hey, welcome into the Big Red Junkies. I am BJ. This is Jed. We are without Matt tonight, thus the fake beer crack.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking returning production. Does it mean a fucking thing?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It really kind of depends on what team you are.
Yeah.
Because you can be Ohio State and lose, the vast majority of your team, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I think where I want to start this discussion, I know you have all the numbers and everything prepped for 2025, but for me, it was more of a like last year. I remember being fired up about Nebraska being, as I'm looking at the numbers right now, third in returning production
from 2024.
2024 heading into the 2024 season, last season. Heading into the 2024 season, Nebraska was ranked third. We had a 77% returning production rating. We were 23rd in offense and 9th in defense. I would say that the defensive number probably made a difference, and the offensive number didn't mean jack shit.
No.
I mean, it was returning production on a bad offense.
Well, also, you looking back at the 2024 season, who are our biggest number guys? Raiola, he's not a part of that.
Yep.
Banks and Nayor, they're not a part of that. Barney,
Hold on a second. I thought you said that they counted transfer production.
Okay, you know what? You're right.
On that number.
So he changed that somewhat recently. I don't remember exactly when he did because he didn't used to bring in transfers because we didn't see this many transfers on anybody.
It had to have been 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I guess but still, it was
Barney wouldn't have been on there.
Yeah, Raiola.
You wouldn't have had like Dowdell didn't have any production to speak of. He was on like 9 plays for Oregon.
Yep.
So that's 12 touchdowns right there that you take off the board if you're trying to count last year's production.
Yeah.
I don't see it from the Nebraska number standpoint. And I was about to say, like, I really think that it comes a lot down to coaching when it comes to those sorts of things. And that sounds to me like an indictment on Nebraska. I'm not necessarily putting that on the Matt Rhule situation. I'm putting it on, there's a reason that we got rid of our offensive coordinator halfway through the year.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we got rid of Tony White, but we didn't fight tooth and nail and claw and scratch to try and keep him.
Yeah.
Which we probably could have if it was something that Matt Rhule really wanted to do.
Maybe.
I mean, when you look at it, the coaching makes as big of a difference, if not more, on these than anything. And you have to think about the type of coaching that this returning production was getting the year prior.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these names that are on here, you look at them and you go, okay, yeah, they really did have a great year, and that's amazing. But like Nebraska was 3 last year, Oklahoma State was 4, and they were fucking atrocious.
Yeah,
this
they
year.
were really bad.
Northwestern was 6. They had the number 1 returning defensive production.
The funny thing with Northwestern is I feel like every year I look at these, Northwestern is always in like the top 10.
They never lose anybody.
It's so and also like what is their production? But but that's not part of this metric. I'm just there was one year that they were number 1 in returning production and they won like 1 game the previous year. So you're looking at it and you just go, this kind of goes to our question as far as what do these numbers as far as returning production mean? If you're coming off of a 1-11 season and you're returning
shit
and you're returning 98% of your production, what does that mean?
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like, so take your national champion, for example. They were 70th headed into last season. They had 61% returning production. On offense, they were 66th, and on defense, they were 60th. So they were really right, dead center, middle of the pack. But they had tremendous coaching, and they brought in tremendous talent, especially when you factor, probably the best wide receiver in all of college football being a true freshman.
Yep.
There's a lot that went into them getting to where they got. You look at the Oregons of the world, the Georgias of the world, the Penn State, like you just start thinking through and rattling off everybody that was in the college football playoff last year. Like, here's one that I thought was interesting. SMU was 66th.
Yeah.
And you would think of an up and coming program like that. You would think, okay, well, they probably, they're a boatload of seniors. They must have a ton of returning production.
Well, but they also were a team coming from a lower level into a
new conference,
big boy conference.
Yeah,
and they ended up in the title game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coaching has way more to do with it. I think that maybe if you were looking at these metrics and you were trying to see like, what is this really going to point to? From a personnel and stylistic standpoint, maybe that would give you a little bit more of an idea. Like, you're not going to change your style that much on a team that's old or a team that's established. At the same time, though, you think about like Heinrich Harburg would have been one of our biggest offensive production returners that didn't even hardly factor into this past season.
Yeah.
So
even though we were told almost every week that he's going to be a big part of our game plan, and then didn't see him on the field at all.
Yeah. But you also see there's some teams up at the top last year. Iowa State, they had a good year. Rutgers, a lot of people made a lot out of their defense returning.
I did,
and they really didn't pan out the way that they should have.
They still won my season total bet, so I don't care.
Well, there you go. But then you look at Syracuse, and Syracuse, it's like, cool. They had another first year head coach, kind of not to the level of Cignetti at Indiana, but similar in that he had a good core that was already there, that returning production, and then he was able to bring in some transfers, flip some guys, recruit a couple people. Kyle McCord, he was by far and away the best quarterback in college football this year. Not going to translate to an NFL prospect in drafting.
I wouldn't say. I mean, I know he had a lot of stats,
statistically.
I'm
saying statistically, it was like a Texas Tech quarterback.
I get it. I just the way that you said that, I was like,
sorry. It was like a Texas Tech season.
Yes. Statistically, yes, he was one of the best.
Yeah, this was like a Mike Leach quarterback type situation. But they balled out. I mean, they had a really good season, and a lot of that probably had to do with their return production. It'd be interesting to see how that's going to play out this year with a head coach and a coaching staff going into their second season.
Well, and it's funny you say that about Rutgers, because going into this next season, number one, first of all, they're number 7 as far as returning production. Number 2 in the country in offense. But you brought up Rutgers from last year and how they were kind of the darlings of a lot of people picking them to win a lot of games. Again, guilty as charged. But this year, that's going to be Illinois. Illinois is third in returning production overall.
They're in Nebraska's spot.
Okay.
That was where Nebraska was last year. So maybe they'll go 6-6.
Well, maybe. But the thing is they have an Indiana-style schedule this year.
Yep.
Where they literally play the Western Illinois, Duke, Western Michigan, Indiana. Okay, maybe we'll see. USC, Purdue, Ohio State, Washington, Rutgers, Maryland. And then Wisconsin and Northwestern to end the season.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
So, and I know going into last year, a lot of people saw that must be ranked number 3, and everybody was like, look at that schedule. We're starting 7-0, blah, blah, blah. And it's like...
Oh, guilty. That was me. I was there.
It was more than just... I
was there, though.
Pointing at you,
I was definitely there, though. It is interesting to see that Cignetti and his awesome, like, you got to call it awesome, even though the guy's a douchebag.
Yeah.
You got to say he had an awesome production for his first season there.
Of course.
They're flipping quite a bit. They're 44th on this list coming into 2025. And I wonder how that's going to look, right? Because he's now not a new guy bringing in guys that he's been coaching.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see if he can continue that culture build and that, that turning the roster.
And he's also not bringing in a 27th year quarterback that started, 800 games at Ohio, and had a lot of production and everything else. So
I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. I haven't looked at that.
I have no idea. I haven't gotten that far into studying next year yet.
But another one on here that I think is interesting to see down this low is Iowa. 65. I know they graduated quite a bit off of their defensive side, But that's a lot.
Yeah,
they're ranked 95th for
95th
defense.
for defense. Yeah.
Hey, maybe this will be a good year for us to snag them at the end of the season.
As long as Kirk Ferentz is still there and Phil Parker is still
they're
there,
they're gonna have a shot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna count anything just yet with those guys because they just always fucking find a way.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at in this maybe this is a more of speaking to the new landscape of college football and the way that the last 2 seasons have gone for Georgia. Georgia's ranked 105th on this list. That's crazy to me.
But again, I mean, Ohio State's 101st.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be fine because they're still Georgia and Ohio State. I think Oregon's down there like maybe 109th. Like,
yeah, they're 109th. You're right.
So, you know.
I think that's interesting because Oregon, to me, felt like a team that just needed to grow a little bit more together.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. Like, which one of these 4 from the Big Ten do you think would have a better shot at recovering? Ohio State, these are all teams ranked 100th or worse. Ohio State, UCLA, Oregon, or Purdue.
Oregon.
Like, well, no, but I mean, Oregon and Ohio State. I don't.
Oh yeah,
you know,
of
Purdue
I'm
and
not just picking one. Yeah,
Purdue and UCLA are fucked.
Well, absolutely. I don't know. I don't know about UCLA. To be honest with you, I think he did a great job.
They surprised
coaching up
everybody last year.
He did a great job coaching up a roster that flipped pretty bad last year too. I don't know where they were in 2024. I'm
just saying that I don't sweat having Ohio State, or if I'm an Ohio State or Oregon fan, I don't care about.
They were 95th last year.
Okay, I don't care about being ranked this far down in returning production. If I'm Purdue, I'm like, shit. Like, who's playing for us? So,
but see, here's the thing that I'll put back to you though is Oregon's coaching staff for the most part is still intact.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's got raided.
Yeah,
they lost. Like Brian Hartline. Yeah. Him staying and becoming the OC is really the only positive move you can point to for their coaching staff this year. They lost a tremendous defensive coordinator that just went to the other side of the fucking he just went to the other side of the line over to Penn State, and then you lose your offensive coordinator out to the Raiders, who also got paid. Jesus Christ, he's making $6 million to be the OC of the Raiders.
Yeah.
Be nice if he had a quarterback. But maybe Tom Brady will go back and play for him. I don't know.
Apparently he was tampering with Matthew Stafford the other day. So
what the fuck ever? Who cares?
I don't care.
I laugh at that whole situation. I'm like, if this was 5 to 10 years ago, everybody and their mom would be losing their shit over the fact that Brady's calling Raiders games.
Yeah.
Like, you own part of the team. How the fuck is that okay? The NBA wouldn't let Michael coach his own team for a little while. Yeah. Like, there's crazy. Like, it's just crazy how far the sports landscape's come where it's like, they've just embraced this. College football kind of led the way in this. They just embraced the idea of it's entertainment. Fuck it. Fuck the rules. Yep. We're making money. Let's just have fun.
Anyway, bad rabbit hole. Sorry.
Bad rabbit hole. But what I was trying to get to is when I'm looking at the Oregon and Ohio State from a coaching perspective and a cohesiveness of ideas and styles and just coaching, speak in general. It's going to be very interesting to see how Ohio State compares to the Oregon rebuild, if you want to call it that, losing, more than 50% of your roster, or more than 50% of your production, I guess. But Nebraska is going to be in kind of the same boat, right? We got lucky enough to get Dana Holgorsen in the door 3 games prior to the end of the season, but essentially it's a new offensive system.
Yeah.
From a defensive system standpoint, they're doing everything they can to keep the lipstick the same, but the pig has changed.
Yep.
They don't know. We don't know what that scheme is going to look like and how much, Rhule says, I want to keep the 3-3-5, but then everything that we hear is that it's going to look way more like the bowl game did, and there's going to be a lot more of that multiple front, a lot more 4-down guys. Who cares about the scheme?
Yeah, even under Tony White, they had 4-down linemen a lot. So, that we talked about that countless times where I don't get caught up in 3-3-5 or 4-3 or whatever. Just that's not necessarily how they line up every fucking time.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Ultimately, what do these numbers say to you? Looking at stuff this year, like for college football as a whole.
Again, it's one of those, which team do you trust more as far as, like I talked about with the guys that are ranked way down at the bottom. Obviously, I trust Ohio State getting it. We just talked about their coaching stuff, but when you're getting 5 and 4 star guys and then paying a shit ton of money for other 5 and 4 star guys, leave other schools, come to you, you're going to be fine. But I'm probably going to end up falling into the trap of Illinois with returning so many guys and them having a 9-win season in the regular season. I know everybody loves Clemson this upcoming season because they did a lot to change their coaching staff and actually are starting to bring in transfers because I know Dabo Sweeney doesn't like it.
But they have a massive returning class. Like they're number one.
They do.
And that's some high-end recruits.
Yeah. But so like number 5, Kennesaw State. Okay, cool. You're bringing back a bunch of guys. You're still not going to be very good.
What?
Yeah. Again, we said it on the last show. Sometimes the numbers can blow you away and sometimes you can get lost in the numbers. And
yeah,
I don't know that I completely this stuff is just fun to look at in February and March.
Well, here's something that I guess
nobody ever really brings it up during the season. So
no, well, you'll hear about it the first couple weeks.
Maybe, yeah.
You hear about it the first couple weeks about specifically offensive line units, returning starts, those whole things.
Yeah.
Something that I do find fascinating is just the acceleration of this modern day of college football with the transfer portal and things, how they are. First of all, this list is coming out before the second transfer window opens after spring.
Yep.
And there's going to be more attrition.
Yes.
There's absolutely going to be more attrition because a lot of these rosters are not going to be complete until almost kickoff day 1.
Yep.
And there might be guys that were giving production last year that are not going to be on that roster. But I think something that's really telling about what it looks like today as opposed to even just last year at this time. Last year, to get to the 70% return mark, you got all the way down to Penn State at 23. To get to the 70% return mark this season, heading into this year, it's number 8 Vanderbilt.
Damn.
To get to the 60% return mark, it was all the way down at 48 last year. This year it's all the way down at 74.
Wow, so the middle
has dropped way down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to me how much you're looking at.
But how many teams are between 70 and 60% compared to last year and then this year?
You're 22 down to 74.
Yeah.
So, fuck, man. That's crazy. That's 50.
So there's a log,
52.
There's a log jam in there.
Yeah. But it's all those teams that are now understanding, okay, cool, I'm going to take this recruiting class of 15 to 25 guys, and then I'm going to sprinkle in 10, 12, 15 transfers. And I think that's kind of the model. Like, you heard Rhule, if you listen to the, what is it? What's Urban Meyer's podcast? I can't remember what it's called right now. Triple Option, yeah. And if you haven't caught that interview with Matt Rhule, Urban Meyer, great thing. If you've always heard the word Matt drills or the phrase Matt drills and you've never really known what it was, Matt Rhule does an awesome, the combination of Matt Rhule and Urban Meyer do an awesome job of explaining what that is. Very, very cool thing to check out. But he talked a lot in there about his new philosophy moving forward, at least as it sits right now, because it's constantly going to be evolving. But him thinking to himself that it's basically going to be, I want to be somewhere in that 60 to 70% high school recruiting, and the rest of it's going to be sprinkled in transfers.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because Urban Meyer made the comment. He's like, we used to talk, when you'd have to go get an experienced guy, it'd be a JUCO, and we'd get, 3 or 4 of those a year. Because I don't remember the last time I heard somebody use the phrase JUCO.
Yeah, no kidding.
Until the Vanderbilt guy, with his JUCO year, but that's the only time you're hearing about any of that stuff. Like I didn't even know Singleton was a JUCO guy.
Oh yeah,
like I didn't realize that.
Yep.
And so it's pretty strange to me to think that in just one calendar year, literally 1 year, we've seen so much more happen as far as movement in the game.
I was gonna say, just in the last 4 years, the amount of movement that has happened and then rehappened and then rehappened and then backtracked and then happened again. And
we still don't know because the house settlement now sounds like it's further apart than it was a month ago.
I know. That's why I try not to just tell me when it's over. Like,
Wake me up.
Yeah.
Anything else you thought was interesting in these numbers? Because, I mean, there's not a lot to go off here.
I think another big thing, it kind of goes back to the whole, if these high-level programs are in the 100s, should it really mean anything? You got Texas at 103. They're 125th in their returning offense.
That's crazy to me.
But they're going to have Arch Manning as their quarterback.
They're going to have Arch Manning. They've got like 4 superstar wide receivers that are going to be
so
getting the ball from Arch Manning.
Again, sometimes these things can be big time. Some of the times it's like, I think it fits for some teams. It just doesn't fit for everybody.
I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say Northern Illinois ranked dead last in returning production with 23%. They're probably not going to pull off another win against a Notre Dame this year.
Probably not.
Like, that might be one we could speak to and say, yeah, you had a good year last year. It might go down a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
The Purdue one doesn't really shock me just simply because of the fact that it's a new coaching staff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and that's one of the other things. Like, how many of these have new? Well, actually, it didn't really happen that much this year because it was like one of the lowest in a long time.
It wasn't near as bad, yeah.
It was like 4 or 5. But, when coaches leave, players leave.
Yeah.
Like, how many of those players for Nebraska would have stayed if Tony White was still here? And then that would have jacked up our returning.
I mean,
number.
you'd have had, at least 3 starters probably stay on
Something
the defensive
like that,
side of the ball. Well, at least, I guess it would have really only been 2. Bayer and Williams. Or not Williams.
Prince Will.
Oh, Prince Will, that's right, too. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Maybe. I'm not saying he definitely would. Prince Will
He
definitely
seemed
would
like he was more on the outs one way or the other.
Yeah, more than likely.
I think when his brother didn't come to Nebraska and went down to Ole Miss, he
Yeah.
kind of saw the writing on the wall and he wanted to get down there.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they had a good season this year. They're returning 70%. That's one you could probably point to. Boise State returning that much without Genty. Don't know how much that's going to affect their offense.
Exactly.
But again, Genty's a guy that, in my mind, I know he had amazing stats, but I don't know that he's all that in a bag of chips, especially going into the NFL.
We'll find
Who knows?
out. I mean, you could have said the same thing about Danny Woodhead doing what he did at Chadron State, and you're like, oh, what the hell is he going to do in the pros? He had a great 12-year career.
That's fair. That's fair.
Who knows?
Looking at Wisconsin at 25, what do you think about that? Because I think Fickle had to turn some of that roster this year.
Well, yeah, but I am not, I'm not a Fickle guy in both ways.
A little Fickle on Fickle?
Yeah. Well, I've always been Fickle on Fickle. I just didn't understand it. I think getting rid of Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator, because that was one of my biggest things. You bring in an air raid guy, and I know we have an air raid guy, but it's different. But you bring in a guy like Phil Longo.
It's air raid, not air raid.
to Wisconsin, and you change that offense. I brought it up so many times with Callahan when he came in here and changed the offense completely. It's like, that's fine. You can do your thing. But when it's such a culture change, as drastic as Wisconsin to Phil Longo or us to Bill Callahan and his offense, you need to just slowly bring them together and then go to your end. He just dove right in head first, and there wasn't any water in the pool.
No. Well, and you had a bunch of athletes that didn't fit that system and
Yes.
really did fit the old system. Really did fit the old system.
So I think it's too far gone for Fickle, to be honest with you. When you have Barry Alvarez going on local radio and really kind of throwing him under the bus.
Oof, I didn't hear that.
You've got a lot of former players, kind of like with what started to happen here under Callahan, a lot of former players that are speaking out like crazy. Hell, who was the Braden Allen? He had that cryptic tweet talking about anybody that wants to hear my story.
The strangest thing about that, though, in my opinion, was he was a dude that said, if they don't hire,
Jim Leonard.
Jim Leonard, I'm out. He posted all over his Twitter, took all the Wisconsin shit off as soon as they hired Fickle. 3 days later, okay, I'm staying.
Yeah.
And then to go on and then have apparently a bad experience with it, and not have a very good final season, not just nothing, you didn't really put anything together. And he was a kid. I don't know if you remember, we played them his true freshman year.
Did you know he was 17?
Yeah. They might or might not have said it 70 fucking times during the game. But he looked like
another Jonathan Taylor.
Well, he looked more to me like another Derrick Henry type.
Yeah.
He looked like a dude that was going to go places. And to me, it seemed like he just never put it together.
No, he did not.
And so then I look at that and I look at the stuff he pulled this year and things like that. And I'm like, do I really take that? Like, I take that with a massive grain of salt right there. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that college football is a wild, wild west right now. And the teams that are able to put their stamp on being at the forefront, like what Nebraska is doing right now, and that's not just me saying that as a Nebraska fan, you're hearing it from a lot of the national shows right now.
Yeah.
Guys that have come out specifically there's guys from On3 that have come and done it. There's two guys from ESPN that were just here 2 weeks ago that just did a little, there was a quick little 5-minute deal on it on ESPN the other day about Nebraska's facilities and the way that they're structuring their staff and all these different things, how there's a lot of NFL programs that are going to want to go copy what Nebraska's doing. That's the type of I'm getting goosebumps right now, God damn it. That's the type of shit
12-0, here we come.
That's the type of but that was the type of shit you used to hear in the 90s about Nebraska and about the program between the 80s and 90s, how we were at the forefront of sports science and doing all these things that other people, including the NFL, wasn't doing. Matt Rhule made that point on that podcast too, like I was talking about. You got to do these things. You got to be able to take numbers like this where we can't make anything out of them and make something out of them. Like there's something in here. There's a reason that they put some of this stuff out.
One of the big things is it shows that Nebraska is now capable of doing something that we've wanted them to do for such a long time, and maybe that's why too many of us fans are stuck in the past. Be malleable, be able to change, be able to shift directions almost before the rest of the universities do it. Like I heard it on the radio the other day when they were talking about I think it was Rhule's interview with Josh Pate. And
that was very illuminating as well.
And they said, it's almost like Rhule says a handful of things at press conferences where it makes you kind of go, is this the direction it's going? And then like a week or two later, all of a sudden you get all these reports of the sports going this way. And it's like, wait, Rhule said that 2
How did
weeks
he know
ago.
about this?
So, but it's
like his spring game stuff.
Yeah.
Where he said that, and then all of a sudden he gets crushed for it nationally.
Yep.
For like 3 days, and then all of a sudden, boom, Texas, boom, Ohio State,
Yep.
boom, Florida. Like all these different programs said, nope, not doing it. Alabama, not doing it.
But to add to the list of reasons why we love Matt Rhule so much is he has his finger on the pulse of everything. Again, we just kind of brought up how much everything's been changing in college football and still some unknowns, but he seems to have his finger on the pulse of every single thing that is possibly going to happen. And I said possibly is going to happen for that reason, because he always seems to say it first, somewhat cryptically. We don't realize it. And then all of a sudden, a month later, we all are talking about it.
Do you think maybe all the coaches are talking about it and he's just the asshole that's breaking the news?
Hey, but
he's just the loose lip?
When was the last time we had a head coach that would actually talk in the media like this?
Very well. I think if Mike Riley had been in the know on anything, he probably would have. But who knows at that point? I think he was so out of touch with everything at that point that
most of our coaches hated the media. So
yeah,
like at least we have a media friendly guy, and he's going around all over the place. Some people are trying to say how maybe he's being overexposed by going out to Pat McAfee and doing the Josh Pate and doing the Urban Meyer. It's like,
Making Nebraska top of mind is not overexposing.
Thank you.
Fucking goddamn. It's just like the people that are bitching about Dylan Raiola and Emmett Johnson going to all these high school sporting events.
He should be looking at the playbook, BJ.
It's always been, the guy that Rhule said in week 3 knew more about the offense than anybody else on the team. It's always been the Nebraska athletes are ambassadors of the program or ambassadors of the university. The easiest way to capture the 5-year-old to the 15-year-old, have the star quarterback show up at his fucking basketball game or in the stands down the row from him in the basketball game and catch a selfie with him. You know what? You grabbed a lifelong Nebraska fan that might have been an Iowa fan because Nebraska sucked too long.
Yep.
How about people stop bitching about small things that don't affect anything when you're talking about a guy that he was at a Scott basketball game on Friday night. Yeah. And then Matt Rhule says, and the next morning I walk in and he's in the gym at 6 a.m. doing cardio. For everybody that's worried about his weight, because Matt Rhule's brought it up like 3 times this offseason. He's got a target of being down 20 pounds. Matt Rhule said it on the Triple Option Show. He's got a target of being down 20 pounds, being more mobile, and he's doing cardio like 5 days a week. I think he's going to be okay. He also comes from big stock, so, I mean, him being a little thicker, that's okay.
Who cares? Jesus.
I just think it's interesting. But
I knew I could get you going on that one.
Well, the triple option thing, that thing he did, I think the most profound thing that he said on there was he said, and I'm going to fuck up quoting this, but basically he said, when I got here in 2023 and heading into 2024, it was kind of like, this is the way Nebraska's always done it, so this is the way we have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he was having a conversation with Tom Osborne about how they used to be at the forefront. They used to be the cutting edge program and all these things, and that we're still trying to do those same things 25, 30 years later. Whereas what we really needed to be imitating is the cutting edge and being on the forefront. And we hadn't forever, and now we are.
Yep.
He said that was the turning of the page this last season. So it'll be really interesting. We talk a lot about the guys that they needed to get a full season under their belt of working out and training and all these, like Ty Robinson from first year, Matt Rhule the second year. Maybe part of the leap for Matt Rhule in year 3 is finally saying, no, this is my program. We're going to do things my way. We respect the past, we respect the history, but we're moving forward.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a big thing.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.